As I Lay Dying here on Full Metal Attack on WICR. Of course, that was Parallels. Before that, A Day to Remember with Best of Me. And then before that, we had Molotov, the first song, the title, no, not title song, what am I saying? The first song off the album, Fight the Silence. They do have a track on there, the title track, Fight the Silence, along with great others like Break the Cycle, Fatherless, and, and others.
And others.
Like Pariah. All right.
Etc.
Etc. No, Pariah is another song that's on the album. Great songs by them. I have to say, I'm loving Common Courtesy. I'm listening to it straight through almost every day now. When I'm bored, I'm doing work, I'm putting on Common Courtesy. Of course, you gotta have respect for Fight the Silence, though. One of the greatest albums coming out from For Today. Actually, Tuesday, Grip, they released the new music video for Break the Cycle.
Oh, really?
Now, a cool story that I heard about this because Maddie Montgomery and Ryan Lietru, they were all tweeting and putting on Instagram all this stuff about the new music video, especially the For Today account. And they were saying about how the music video is going to come out Tuesday and all this stuff. While filming the music video happens on the roof of a building.
Okay. A la the Beatles in their last performance?
Yeah, kind of like that, actually. But you see in the video, or in this post, there's a guy in a wheelchair that's crowd surfing in the wheelchair.
That's cool.
I'm not kidding. And apparently his friends carried him up so ever many flights of stairs so they can go be in this music video, which I thought was awesome.
That's awesome.
You know, good for the friends. I mean, those are true fans right there, especially the guy in the wheelchair.
And true friends.
Having true friends to carry this guy so he could be in a music video. And then they have him crowd surfing. I believe it's in the music video too. And, you know, I hope that guy gets a lot of recognition and his friends. And I just thought it was a really cool story that came out of that.
And what's the name of that song?
Break the Cycle.
Break the Cycle.
Featuring, I believe his name is Matty Mullins. He's the lead singer of Memphis May Fire, I believe. Lead screamer, vocalist. So, you know what? It was a great music video. Really a lot of... It looked fun. And that's the way it should in a lot of heavy metal bands. You know, a lot of them are very dark sometimes, and and a lot of them have a lot of meaning. Obviously, Break the Cycle had some meaning to it as well, but it was very nice. It looked like it was just a lot of fun.
And you know, it gets back to the discussion we've had many times about the different styles of metal and how we both agree that the metal community is viewed by the general public as sort of this dark, satanic kind of, you know, devil may care kind of stuff.
They're kind of not wrong, though, because there are some bands and some fans that are out there that are like that.
There are some genres like doom metal, black metal, satanic metal, you know, that are, yes, that kind of dark, crazy, kill 'em all-esque attitude. But then you have bands that, at least I prefer to listen to. I happen to like bands like the Big Four of thrash metal, Anthrax, Metallica, Slayer, and Megadeth, which, okay, maybe not the best examples, but they're not extreme.
I mean, just look at
they're
Anthrax,
not extreme.
Anthrax
well, now, wait a minute.
and Megadeth.
I mean, they're not so extreme, though, but then you have bands like the hair metal bands, Poison, Winger, Motley Crue.
Oh, Winger.
Yeah.
She's only
17.
We do not own that music.
No, we do not.
That is not performed. That was just performed by us as a cover.
That was 3 seconds worth. We're under copyright. We're good.
It doesn't matter. I want to give Winger their due.
They're due. They absolutely do. But the point is that metal does not have to be, and even if it sounds satanic and dark, it's not. A lot of the bands that you listen to, that you've played before, while they're heavy,
very positive
they have very positive messages.
Yes.
Many Christian messages.
For Today. For Today is a big example.
Oh yeah.
I think people need to open up their minds a little bit more. I think everyone's not everyone. I think a lot of people are stuck in that top 40 mode. You know, like Z100 and stuff. And it's, you know, I respect that music. It's not bad music, but I think they should open up their horizons a little more. They might find out that they actually like A Day to Remember. Look at Day to Remember. They're very diverse. You don't have to know the heaviest song, but if you like A Day to Remember, you like A Day to Remember.
It would be nice to walk into a club.
You won't.
Say I have. It would be nice to walk into a club and not hear AC/DC's "You Shook Me All Night Long," the techno remix, as the only rock and roll song, or one of the only few rock and roll songs you hear. It would be nice if DJs would kind of, you know, mix it up a little bit more, add in some new things to their set, because there are some very good pop-y-ish rock and metal songs out there, which some I've played, and you could probably mix them up as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard some good rock mixes of popular songs, and I think that's awesome. They do covers.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree. Hopefully, you know, people open up their horizons and minds to rock music in general. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's understandable.
That's fine.
Once it starts being put labels on, when people don't even hear the music for what it is, probably one of the things that really bothers me is when someone says it's just noise.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I were to say that to them, maybe they wouldn't take it as personally, because I'm a musician myself, and I'm very passionate about the music I write, play, and listen to. So, maybe people will call me sensitive or whatnot, but it's not just noise. It's very disrespectful to the bands, to the music genre, to the music community to say that something is noise. And let's take it to a technical term. What is music? Technically, it's noise.
Technically, it is.
It's a sound. So then the things you're listening to are noise, too.
And if I may borrow a line,
Sure.
or a title, I should say, from the final track off of AC/DC's classic Back in Black album.
For those about to rock.
No, not quite. Not quite. No, not quite. Rock and roll ain't no noise pollution.
Right.
It
and
isn't.
you actually didn't you put that as a hashtag, I believe,
I
on
did.
Facebook, along with Flight of the Condor, and I love that hashtag. I gotta say.
And hashtag Reagan Smash.
You know what? Even over Reagan Smash, Flight of the Condor is probably my favorite. Let's talk about flying. The Flyers losing to the Rangers. You like that segue?
I like that segue.
Oh man, what a great game last night! The Rangers took on the Flyers at the Garden, took a 3-0 lead, and then in the final period, the Flyers got a cheap power play goal, whatever.
Whoa. Quickly, I was listening to Joe and Evan this morning, and I will formulate this concisely. There's the old saying, there's 2 constants in life. Well, now there are 3 constants in life: death, taxes, and the Rangers will beat the Flyers in Madison Square Garden.
That's right.
Thank you, Joe and Evan, in the morning on The Fan.
Thank you. So, yeah, the Philadelphia Flyers falling to the Rangers 3-1, and then also last night's matchups, there's only 3. Minnesota Wild falling to the Vancouver Canucks 5-2, which was a big game for the Vancouver Canucks, and then the Ducks beating the Flames 3-2. Now, tonight, right now, actually, the Chicago Blackhawks are taking on the Bruins. The Bruins are beating them 1-0. It's at the end of the first. Also, the end of the first. Actually, all these games I'm going to say are pretty much at the end of the first here. End of the first with the Phoenix Coyotes versus the New Jersey Devils. The Coyotes are up 1-0. LA Kings versus the Penguins. LA Kings are up 1-0. Big game for the Kings.
Big game for
Huge
the Kings.
game for the Kings. Montreal Canadiens up against the Red Wings 2-0. And you know what? Detroit's got to step it up if they want to keep in the wild card. There's 4 teams tied at 80 points for that wild card, and they got to step it up. The New York Islanders are taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's 11:57 in the first, so 11 minutes left. 0-0 there. 10:51 left in the first against the for the Hurricanes and Panthers. 1-0 the Hurricanes lead. Some matchups coming up. St. Louis Blues taking on the Minnesota Wild at St. Louis at 8 o'clock. At Predators, we got Buffalo against Nashville, 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock, we got the Canucks against the Avalanche. Big game for the Canucks again. And then tonight at 10:30, the Winnipeg Jets at San Jose against the Sharks. Now, let's look at the standings here. In the Eastern Conference, in the Atlantic Division, top 3 are the Bruins, Canadiens, and Lightning. Bruins are leading with 104 points. The Canadiens with 89. Lightning with 87. In the Metropolitan Division, kind of close. The Penguins at first, 97 points. Rangers in second, 86. Flyers, 83 points. With the Blue Jackets in fourth with 80 points with the Capitals, and they're the ones that are tied in the East for the wild card. In the West, the Central Division, the Blues, the Blackhawks, and the Avalanche 1, 2, and 3. The Blues 105, Blackhawks 99, and Avalanche 96 points. And then in the Pacific Division of the West, you have the San Jose Sharks, the Ducks, and the Kings 1, 2, and 3. The Sharks with 103 points, the Ducks 101, and the Kings with 90. So they're trailing by 11 points from second. Coyotes with 82. Now at the wild card in the East, we have the Blue Jackets, the Red Wings, the Capitals, and the Maple Leafs all tied at 80 points.
Wow.
All tied at 80 points.
Wow.
So it's about, obviously, the Blue Jackets are on top. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4 going down the list. The Blue Jackets, the Red Wings, the Capitals, and the Maple Leafs. That's going by how many they've lost. Maple Leafs are on a lose 6 right now. The Capitals lost in overtime. Detroit's coming off a lose 1, and the Blue Jackets have 1-1. So that's definitely something to look at. And then in the West, for your wild card teams, we have the Minnesota Wild and the Phoenix Coyotes. The Wild have 85 points, and the Coyotes have 82. But the Stars, who are just under the wild card mark, have 79 points in the West. So they're not too far behind. So every game's got to count. Every game's got to count. So it's definitely going to be a nice playoff. I think it's going to be very exciting.
and it's good to see at
That's
least
your
one.
Iona. That's your Iona College NHL update, by the way.
And thank you for that, Mr. Considori.
You're
and
welcome.
I will say, I'm really hoping that the Rangers, if are winning
Oh,
the
and
Stanley Cup this year.
and by the way, I'm getting all this information from NHL Game Center, which is a free app on the iPhone. I suggest that you download it.
Thank you for giving credit where credit is due.
Yes.
It's nice to see a New York team make a legitimate playoff,
Oh.
have legitimate playoff contention. Because as we were talking during the musical interlude, the Knicks, while suffering an abysmal loss on, not last night, but 2 nights ago to the Los Angeles Lakers, they did beat the Kings, and it's been a pretty good win streak-ish for them,
Yeah.
I have to say. Statistically, they can still make the playoffs, which I believe is absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
They're only, I believe,
it's-
2 or 3 games out of the 8th
Yeah.
playoff spot. It's mind-boggling.
And I used to say when the Knicks don't play, that's a game they've won. That's,
Yeah.
That's how bad they were doing.
Put it this way. Tonight, the Atlanta Hawks play the Portland Trailblazers in Atlanta. If the Hawks lose that game, the Knicks are only, I believe, 2 games out of the 8th playoff spot. That is
Yeah.
a scary... It's a good thought if you're a Knicks fan, but at the same time, it's like, okay, yay, we get the playoff spot. Nay, we got to get, beat up by either Indiana or Miami, depending on how far down we make.
Miami lost.
Yes, Indiana, correct?
I don't know.
I believe it was the Indiana.
Probably.
In Miami, I believe.
Yeah, it was
On top
in
of that.
Miami. It was in Miami that they
But
lost.
on more happy basketball news,
Sure.
we are in the midst of the NCAA March Madness tournament.
Yes,
Did you
tonight.
make a bracket, Pete?
I did not make a bracket.
I happen to make a
Do you
bracket.
know why I didn't make a bracket?
Because you're too concerned looking at hockey scores.
Because that, and before I knew Mike DeMurgis and Joe D, I didn't know what a bracket was.
Oh.
That's a joke. But I really, the sports shows here, Sports Central, Sports Vault, the media director here, Mike DeMurgis, huge in sports when it comes to the broadcasting world. I hear them all the time talking about their brackets, how everyone's is messed up, how this one. I actually called in last night to Sports Central, and I asked them, who do you have winning the whole thing? And Joe D promptly said Louisville. Now, I'm not a big fan of NCAA basketball, not because I don't like it, it's because I really don't follow it.
Right.
But I would have to agree with him with Louisville. I could see them going all the way. After I saw one game with them, I can just see they're a solid team.
I made my bracket, and I got to say, I thought I had a pretty good bracket.
Now, did you make your bracket through ESPN?
Here's what I did. I'm in my father's office pool, and
So it was like a paper kind of thing? Or?
yeah, and then I
Got
copied it onto the ESPN tournament app so I could keep track a
Right.
little easier.
Right.
Let's just say VCU was one of my teams. Duke was one of my teams.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
Was
so-
Dayton
well-
one of your teams?
No. But
Oh,
I
man.
will say,
if anyone had Dayton
full-on-
on there, if they had there on their bracket, just congrats.
Thank you.
That is just
or Mercer. He had Mercer.
or Mercer.
My final 4 are still alive.
Who's your final four?
My final 4
You have
are
Florida State in there?
no, Florida State. I have
Not
Florida.
Florida State.
I
Excuse me,
have
Florida.
I have Michigan State, Arizona, and Michigan. And my final is
So you didn't have Louisville in there.
no, I did not have Louisville. I have Michigan. I have
Ah.
Michigan going to my final 4. I have my final Arizona defeating Florida in AT&T Stadium, Dallas, by a score of 78-73.
You put the scores in your bracket too?
Yeah, you have to as a tiebreaker. When you let me explain a little quick. When you're in one of these big pools,
Oh, so if someone has
multiple-
the same bracket, you have to get
Right.
whoever's close to the score. Got
right.
it.
So say
This has nothing to do with the
Right.
ESPN bracket thing, though, right? It's just if you. Do you
no,
have
I
to
think you
put
pick it on.
scores?
I think you pick it on there too. I think.
Really? Okay.
I think, but at least in my dad's office pool, say there's 4 people who picked Arizona and Florida in the finals.
Right.
Okay, and 3 of them picked Arizona to win. Well, in order to figure out who gets the first place money, whoever gets the closest score
Right.
wins. So that's the idea. So
All right.
I believe it's tonight and tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tonight and tomorrow are the Sweet 16 rounds.
We had
so
a Sweet 16 preview yesterday and today with John Stanko and Joe Archino
yes, we did.
on the morning show here at WICR, which you listen
Right.
to live Monday through Friday, 9 a.m.
Right. And the funny thing too is that my dad and I were working out our brackets, and I had already filled mine out, and I'm sitting at the dining room table with him.
Let me ask you a question. Did you use math?
No,
Okay.
No, I just kind of like based off of what I knew of the teams, because there's 64 teams on there.
You
Some
know-
of them you never heard of, like Mercer.
You know what I do? I just pick.
And,
Oh, that team looks nice.
Mercer. You want to laugh? We were over my aunt and uncle's house this past weekend, and they said that my cousin, she filled out a bracket, and she picked the teams according to their costumes.
Costumes.
Costumes. She's got 97% of the wins.
No way. How old is she?
As my father likes to say, it's always better to be lucky than smart.
Is she like 5 or like? Is
No,
she
she's
our
like
age?
35,
Oh,
maybe a little older.
and wow, because of their costumes.
Yeah.
Well, good job.
Yeah, well,
Congrats.
she's not a sports person, but I just thought it was funny. But
I want to make. I think
Right.
next year I'm just going to make a complete underdog bracket and see how I do.
you'll probably do very well.
I
Actually.
know, exactly,
You'll probably
so-
do very well. But you know, I mean, some teams like you don't really know, like Mercer, Coastal Carolina. You know who these
You don't know
teams
who
are.
you don't know who Coastal
I just-
Carolina is?
Do you know who Coastal Carolina are?
No, but I
Oh,
thought
there you
maybe
go.
you would.
No, but there's no way you can intensively follow all those teams.
Right.
So, you know, I just picked based off of what I knew of the teams historically that they're good.
Right.
And what the funny thing was, sitting at my dining room table with my father, is he's filling his out. I'm listening to him pick his teams like, okay, I have this, and this, and I'm looking at mine going, I got that.
He was looking at your bracket, wasn't
No,
he?
he wasn't. He was looking at his own bracket. So I said, Dad, wait a second. Can you read those back to me? Oh yeah, like we're 7 for 8. I think, well,
Oh man.
I think he had Louisville going in his Elite 8, and I didn't. I think.
Now,
I had him losing.
how's your Elite 8? How many of your Elite 8 do you have?
If I can load it up real quick, I might be able to tell you.
He's gonna check, but while you're checking, Relay for Life coming up April 12th here at Mulcahy Gym, I believe it's Mulcahy.
Okay,
The one over here. The one that the basketball games don't play in, I think. Or it might be in the other one. It's in one of the gyms. Relay for Life, April 12th. That's going to be happening from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. the next day. Make sure you sign up your teams with your teams and your team captain. It's for a great cause, and you'll be listening to WICR from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Okay, and we actually have some score updates.
We have some score updates.
We have some score updates.
All right, real
we'll
quick.
go through the Sweet 16 real fast. We have number 1 seed in the South, number 1 seed Florida versus number 4 seed UCLA. That goes on tonight at 9:45. And I had Florida and VCU, who got knocked out in the first round. Yeah. The second game in the South we have is number 11 seed Dayton and number 10 seed Stanford, and Dayton is currently leading 34-27 with 4:18 remaining.
Whoever
in the
picked
first.
Dayton is probably dancing right
Yes,
now.
and I had Ohio State and Kansas.
You know, I would have picked Ohio State only because I know the name.
I did pick Ohio State.
And look where that got us.
I know. In the East, we have number 1 seeded Virginia taking on number 4 seeded Michigan State tomorrow night at 9:57, and I have Michigan State winning that game. I have Virginia going down. We're going to find out what happens. Tomorrow night at 7:27, we had number 3 seeded Iowa State and number 7 seeded Connecticut at 7:27. And I have Iowa State advancing, but I had Villanova as their opponent. Got knocked out there. This first game in the West for the Sweet 16 I actually got correct. Number 1 seeded Arizona will take on number 4 seeded San Diego State tonight at 10:17 p.m.
10-17.
I don't know what all these 7s for. I guess some sort of delay. And then the second game in the
Well,
West.
tip off is usually never on time,
Second
so
game,
I'm sure.
True. Second game in the West, we have number 6 seeded Baylor taking on number 2 seeded Wisconsin. Wisconsin is currently leading by a score of 10-6. There are 12 minutes and 1 second remaining in the first. And
There
I
you
had
go.
in that game, I had Creighton and Oregon. Whoops. And
You
then
know-
the last, we have the Midwest.
Yeah, go for it.
We have the Midwest. That'll be tomorrow night at 9:45 p.m. We have number 8 seeded Kentucky taking on number 4 seeded Louisville. And I had
Louisville.
Wichita State and Louisville.
You know, I would have had Wichita State win that whole thing only because they had an undefeated season.
Yeah, although one of the problems that a lot of analysts on ESPN were saying was that they, quote-unquote, hadn't beaten anybody. But they did prove in that game again. No, it's true. But then in that game against Kentucky, they proved they were
Yeah.
legitimate contenders.
Yeah.
And then the last game in the Midwest, sort of a Cinderella team, a surprise team. Number 11 seeded Tennessee taking on number 2 seed Michigan State. That'll be tomorrow night at 7:15 p.m. And I do have Michigan winning that game.
All right.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
That's your sports update from Full Metal Attack. You really don't get that much action in sports from us. But you know what? I guess we tried to switch it up a little bit.
We decided to just cram it all in at the last. We have like a 16-minute segment going on right here.
Why
Mike
not?
Demers is probably going to kill me.
No, he won't. He's going to love this because it's sports. Big
That's
shout
true.
out to Mike for
Hey, Mike.
inspiring us to do sports only because
Yes.
he knows that I only know NHL. And we really need to get the sports shows to do a little more NHL, but
We
that's
do.
neither here nor there.
Well, Sachs.
Ian Sachs,
did finally do some NHL updates.
because I told him to. Because I was like, Sachs, you got to do some NHL. Ian Sachs
under
is
penalty
a
of banishment. What?
banishment. Wow, we're going back to like the 1800s here.
You're banished from WICR.
No.
Don't come back. Ever.
Y'all don't come back now. You
Yeah.
hear?
Anyway.
And that's not my quote.
No, it's not. But it was somebody's. And on that note.
Well, I put the don't in, so we're good.
Okay, fair enough. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that just about does it, finally, for us here at WICR.
Yeah, sorry, guys. You're probably sick of us, but thanks for
probably.
listening in, and you can listen to us on Ustream.com and Live365.com by searching WICR. Don't forget, we're back again next week at 6:30.
I'll be working the boards again.
He'll be working the boards, hashtag grip on the board, and Flight of the Condor, obviously.
And hashtag Regan Smash.
Hashtag Reading Smash. You can listen to us live on Ustream.com and Live365.com by searching WICR. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/WICR Gales Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Iona WICR. And go to YouTube. It's fairly simple. Go to YouTube for previously recorded shows, and that's youtube.com/ is that WICR Gales Radio?
That is youtube.com/user/WICR Gales Radio. You can watch
Now, the
previously
user- wait,
recorded video clips of our shows.
That copy's a little wrong. The user part is if you actually sign into our, I believe you sign into our YouTube account. But if you just typed in WICR Gales Radio,
Close enough.
you will find previously recorded shows. And don't forget, tomorrow morning at 9, the WICR Morning Show with producer Joe Archino.
All right, for all of us here at WICR, and by that I mean Pete Considori and myself, Nick Ribbo, you've been listening to Full Metal Attack on WICR. Iona, keep on rocking, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.